This is the crib, man. It's the real deal. And it was just a reminder. Look at that. YouTube, I'll be back. Don't go anywhere. I'll be here. Size of a pretty big house. But I'll give it a walk around these days. It's a little profitable from that. It's really spacious, huge, 3,000 square feet. Apartment. Very nice in Prague. But I want to do a short live video before I do some yoga, take a shower, grab some dinner. My evening meditation to ask you if you're keeping your mind sharp today. Now, for me, that would mean changing the camera. So instead of seeing the computer screen in a blur, it would mean keeping it on moi. But I published a guest post from my friend Lisa Sicard at Small Biz Tipster. I submitted a guest post to my friend Erica Moisenbeck, her blog talking about traveling to wake up your mind. And the guest post I placed and was just published in Small Biz Tipster talked about having a growth mindset for your small business. And the past few, a lot of posts on Blogging from Paradise are mindset focus, of course. But my past posts, the one that comes to mind is technology, the big T. And if you're allowing technology to use you, or if you're using it to be truly helpful. Of course, there's a huge mindset component in that, right? I mean, technology, when you use it to be truly helpful, really not to consume, but to create, you're cooking with gas. Meaning you're waking up your mind, because when you're being truly helpful, you keep this really engaged and active and alert, and you strengthen it, become stronger. You see through the illusion of fear. You see that we're all one in mind. You see love. You don't see fear. But you have to commit fully to training your mind and keeping it active on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, all the time, to keep it stronger, to give it more strength, to be aware, to spot your self-sabotaging tendencies, to keep facing your fears, to become aware of your fears, to let up your fears from them pushed out of awareness. You won't do this if you become mentally lazy. And I'm not talking about physical laziness. I mean, everything is mind. Even your body is your mind. Everything is your mind. You're a mind. That's what you are. This is an illusion. It seems very real. I get it. I know. I buy into it too. But you really are mind. However, when you don't commit to training your mind regularly, you become mentally lazy. So you'll become a consumer. You'll distract yourself. Like you'll see, maybe you've experienced that. I've experienced it. I've done it. We've all done it pretty much. But let's say you see someone, or you're doing it yourself, or I've done it, where you're just scrolling and watching videos and seeing what's going on and consuming more information. And you're not doing anything with it to be truly helpful for other human beings. That's a sign of a very lazy mind, extremely lazy. And the problem with being a consumer, guys, I don't even mean commercially, I'm talking about mind consuming, and then you don't distribute it. You don't help. You're not helping people. You're not doing things from an energy of love, from an intent of love and service and helping. That's the greatest love. That's the greatest joy. It's the greatest happiness, peace of mind, is when you're truly helpful. The more you consume, the less you create, your mind becomes lazy and it goes deeper into sleep. The more deeply your mind goes into sleep, the more you trust in illusions and ignore the truth, the more you buy into fear and distrust love, the more you see us as fragmented and separated, which is an illusion, which creates all your problems, really, endless problems in your life. And the less you see that we're all just one mind, we're all connected. There's just one of us. There's not, it looks like it. When your mind's asleep, it looks like we're all really separate. This is why you got to keep sharpening your mind, because if you don't and you become mentally lazy, your mind will go into a deeper sleep and you'll believe what isn't true, and you won't trust what is. You won't believe what's true. The world really is insane, and it's 100% impossible. And the reason for that is it was made in fear. You'll notice that all the forms, all the images, it all dies. It all goes away. Could that be love? That would create death. Is it possible? Is anything possible in the world when it fades away? When you really think this through logically, you get it. You see that the reality is in spirit, it's in mind, it's in eternity, it's well beyond this, but you have to keep your mind sharp. Train it, meditate. I mean, there's different strategies. It's not so much the technique or the tactic, because there's so many different ways to train your mind, but it is the full commitment to doing it. And it's going to be really uncomfortable sometimes, because the ego wants you to go to sleep. It wants your mind to go to sleep. It wants you to rely on technology so you don't do the thinking exclusively. It just wants everything to do the thinking for you, or as much as possible. It doesn't want you to do the work. It wants you to consume. Now, when you observe the world and you see a lot of minds that appear to be totally asleep in this slumber of fear and delusion, it could be really upsetting until you really begin to wake up your mind. Then you see through it. You see through the fear. And you get that even though it might appear to be really scary, and you'll say, oh my goodness, the more you sharpen your mind, you will hear this voice called, you could call it the intuition. You could call it your gut. You could call it the Holy Spirit. You could call it Jesus. Call it Fred if you want. Trust me, none of these ascended masters, none of these purely eternal spirit doesn't mind. But it loves when you listen to it, because when you're listening to it, you're doing things from love and you're being truly helpful. It takes a lot of mind training. It's not easy. It's difficult. It's not comfortable. Yet, what's the other option? Putting your mind to sleep and buying deeper into the illusion. Being lazy mentally and being scared, fearing, being angry, enraged, depressed. These are all uncomfortable states of mind that you will experience as you're waking up your mind, as you're waking up a sleeping mind. And again, guys, this is not comfortable. Like, I don't want to sugarcoat it. This is a really difficult, uncomfortable process at times. But when you start to get that by waking up your mind and trusting your intuition, that life actually gets a lot easier progressively. If you just trust that small, still voice and hear it more by not being mentally lazy, by waking it up. I got a cat running around here in this massive, monstrously large apartment. I don't know, it's Kelly in there getting dinner together. Bella. If you do it, guys, and I know you are, I see all my friends and just the world in general, it's getting there. You actually desire to sharpen your mind more and more, because you see how beneficial it is for you first, because it feels better, and then for everybody. Because when you're a bright light and you're sharing that light with the world, life becomes a lot more enjoyable, it becomes fun. And more importantly, the stuff that used to scare you won't scare you anymore because you won't have the fear in your mind. You'll have woken that part up and you'll see through even if it appears to be really real. I'm not saying it doesn't appear to be, doesn't seem to be. You'll wake that fear up. You'll say, yeah, hey, it's like shaking, rattling some cages. It's uncomfortable, but you start seeing through it. So it won't scare you. And when less and less scares you in the world, you're going to have a lot more fun. And when you see these illusions, these appearances, these things that seem so real, again, it's tough. It's tough. But these masters, these mind training masters, the masters, they've been teaching us for so long, for such a long period of time, that if you just wake up your mind, you see through it all and you don't get involved in it. It's like Jesus stressing, be passerby in this world. He meant it. He means it now. He's eternal, like we all are. We're all eternal. This whole thing, it's coming and going. So that's why you want to be a passerby. And you be a passerby by waking up your mind, by sharpening it. And really, there's mind training, but on a practical level, if you're not training your mind as much, sharpening it, really the most practical thing you could do is to do things with love and to be truly helpful. When you just follow that cosmic imperative, your life will become so much better. It'll feel a lot more fun because you see, when we're helping people, that's when we're thinking from an intent of love, like truly helpful, having fun, lifting up the world, waking up minds, not through force, but just by invitation, guidance for people that want it. And you step away from the lazier mental state. And by lazy, guys, I don't mean this in pejorative fashion or nasty fashion. I just mean like mentally, we've all done it. We get kind of lazy. We're kind of sharp and we're feeling good. And then up here, we just start distracting ourselves or falling into these different moods in the mind and kind of staying there. And of course, as we wake up the mind, we got to face our fears. It's just going to happen. It's the reason why there's a part that's asleep. But when you commit to sharpening this mental tool, this mind, you'll naturally, organically do more and more from love. You'll make choices to have fun and to be truly helpful. And not only will you wake up your mind a little bit more, sharpen it more, you won't go backwards anymore. You won't head back into fear and into the greater sleep and into the anger and the rage and the depression, because that's all going on up here. That's why we're so blessed. We have this thing that doesn't have any limits. And training your mind, sharpening it, will gradually, could be really uncomfortable and difficult, but you start to see like we really don't have limits. Jesus was not kidding when he said the kingdom of heaven was within, is within. Let's talk. We want to talk in the holy instant. This is all present. We think back, but he's here. He always says, Buddha was not kidding. I am the dreamer of the dream. These guys aren't kidding. They show us up here. They're not kidding. Ascended masters through the ages, many of whom looked up to Jesus as the Christ mind, perfectly developed mind. The more you sharpen the mind and you do things from love, even though it's really uncomfortable, and we know it's really uncomfortable to forgive. It is not easy to forgive at first because the ego is just like, no. But again, if we don't forgive, we run back into mental slumber. We get a little lazy. So instead of seeing the world as reflecting our beliefs back to us, because we're all one. That's one thing all these other ascended masters reminded us of. We're one. We're one. We're one. We're one. One. So as your mind wakes up more and more, and it's not comfortable, this is not fun. It's not fun, but it has to happen. And I know you see stuff that seems to be going on out there, but then you remember, and oh man, all these people said, all these ascended masters, all these enlightened beings are like, you're one, they're your brother, turn the other cheek. Jesus, turn the other cheek, Buddha. You're angry. You're the one holding the hot coal. It's reminding you out there, they're showing your beliefs back to you, right? The speck in your eye. See the speck in your brother's eye. Look at the log in yours. It's like you're one with your brother, even if they appear to be doing something outrageous or really horrible on a worldly level. The more you wake up your mind, you're like, that, I'm one with that, one mind with that in God, and they're reflecting my beliefs back to me. Wow. So when you start understanding that level of forgiveness that's radical, are you going to have problems anymore? Well, progressively, you have what appears to be problems, and then you start to see, oh, shoot, they're just showing me my beliefs for forgiveness. Wow, that's a very liberating way to live, right? This is what happens when the mind really starts to be, when you start to sharpen it. Like I hear Kelly in there cutting the tempeh with a very sharp knife. It becomes razor-like. It's pretty, and I'm just starting, guys. I'm a mind training newbie, but there's so many different paths. I wouldn't say anything other than trust your guidance, trust your intuition, pray to the Holy Spirit. Help me out. Holy Spirit, guide me. Holy Spirit, help me. Help me out, Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, guide me. And the more quiet your mind is after you say that, you get the answers. He's right here with all of us. Or whatever symbol would appeal to you, but you get the guidance, and he'll help you see to do things with love, to train your mind, to have fun, to remind us that we're all one here, and to forgive at that radical level of like, oh man, the uncomfortable level, right? It's uncomfortable. The ego is like, no, it's them. And the Holy Spirit's like, your lesson, buddy. Your lesson, your lesson, your lesson. Not in a, just pure love. It's always love. They only know love. Jesus only knows love. The Holy Spirit, it's pure love. They see through everything else because it's perfection, perfect love. But it takes a lot of mind training and a lot of sharpening the mind. And when you're in a phase of being mentally lazy and just not thinking as clearly and hustling back to fear, forgive yourself. Be gentle with yourself because it takes a lot of practice, a lot of time, a lot of patience to become aware of what's going on up here and then to shift it or to feel the fear, to really feel the fear because that stuff's going to come up. Dark night of the soul, the shadow. Jesus talks about the ring of fear in A Course in Miracles, or you hear Vipassana meditators. They talk about the ring of fear, like reach this point where they're like, uh-oh. And it's not pleasant. Mystics and the saints, they all went there. St. Francis Assisi, you could read up if you haven't already, and I'm sure a lot of you have, but if you haven't, they reach that point and it's like, ugh. But then you see when they get through that, why they live in bliss. And they see through the illusion. In this world, it seems like it's really, really real, but then you start to understand there has to be something else because you're thinking like this can't be it because it's nuts. It is. So then when you start to understand more and more that it's nuts, you don't become as invested in it because you know it's really impossible. And if you pay close enough attention to patterns over centuries and thousands of years, even though there appears to be a lot of growth in some areas, you're going to see that like self-sabotaging nature of the world and how all the mystics and the saints, they just understood that the reality is spirit, it's love, it's what's underneath it all. That's what's eternal. That's where not even so much the reward, I guess you could say that, but that's where everything is really popping because we know this goes away. You guys are gonna, I'm doing it here in Prague and beautiful trips and I'm loving it, but guys, we know the drill by now. We take this, we put it aside. But this is forever. I'm saying this, but ultimately it's everywhere. Again, they keep reminding you, all the masters of the ones that have sharpened their minds to the point of being enlightened and they identify with spirit. Like that's their identity. Imagine that. But it takes a lot of training and I'm just starting on this journey and you guys are, and I'm inviting you to. And it's just such a sweeter way to live. Sometimes it's really uncomfortable. Again, especially when the mind gets a little lazy and we start getting pulled away by the ego towards what? Fear, fighting, all that just uncomfortable stuff. So if you're going down that road, and I go down that road sometimes, forgive yourself. Could be good to put a rubber band around your wrist and snap it. Some type of reminder like, going back to the sleeping mind, anger, rage, fighting. Let's get back. Let's sharpen that mind again. Let's get right back. Let's head right in. Little meditating, little prayer. Holy Spirit, help me out. Give in a temptation. I'm tempted to think I'm this body, that there's this fighting and it just seems so ingrained in my mind. Let's get back to sharpening the mind, waking it up. Let's get back to love. Let's get back to being truly helpful. And you'll see the more you do that, your life is not so much going to even improve, but it's going to become more fun and enjoyable, and you're going to be really helping a lot of folks. And this is one of my secrets. And I pulled back for a while because I was going through my shadow and dark night of the soul in certain moments, and just heaviness in my mind, like fear, guilt, grief that I had to forgive. I had to release. I face it and feel it, express it, and let it go. So I pulled back on the creating, but now I'm getting into that creating mode again. And so I'm happiest because I'm being most helpful for everybody and trusting with that. And sometimes it is uncomfortable. Like even with this video, I'm comfortable creating it, but my neck's a little sore, a little bit of tension here. And I know I got my meditating and dinner and some stuff to do and changing the litter box and hardly a nightmare life. I get that, guys. But still, it's just part of me sharpening the mind is being really transparent. And I've been with you guys, with just going deeper and sharing. Yeah, I smile a lot and I'm very happy, but I've explored a lot of fear, a lot of guilt, and a lot of grief. And in so doing, I've been able to do a lot more with a sharpened tool up here, which helps me see through a lot of the stuff, that helps me glide forward, to forgive, to let go, to just be present, to do things with love, and to have fun, so I can inspire others, other minds that are all really one. We're all one, but just inspire other folks to empower themselves through mind training, through blogging, on a worldly level. And then even just to live vicariously through me in a way, if you will. If you might not be traveling, but seeing these pictures of Prague, I've seen the feedback. It really is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I've heard a lot about it, beautiful, only awesome things about it. And then when you're here and you look at these buildings, it's amazing. Immaculate city. Food's awesome. People are really, really friendly. And it's just a cool place. So that's another thing I've done, because I've sharpened this the best I can, and I continue to, living this life of travel and sharing these photos. So you get to see, and maybe you'll come one day, or if not, you got to see these images and you never knew. Oh my God, Prague, heard about it, but wow, look at these buildings. So guys, that's that. I'm gonna go ta-ta. YouTube. See you later, guys. Not yet. No, I'm gonna roll. Keep sharpening that mind, guys.